I think it looks like a bug.
Yeah, definitely shrimp-like.
Say Pac-Man on water.
Kind of looked like this steampunk version of a covered wagon.
People think it's a snail.
He got googly eyes.
And a really long, flat tongue.
Gobbling up trash.
It's like a monster that lives in the waters of Baltimore that eats trash.
Baltimore has a beautiful harbor, but trash has been a problem in the harbor for generations. When it rains, the trash that's on the streets and in the alleys gets washed down into the storm drains and then makes its way down to the harbor with the storm water. I've spent about 20 years working on Baltimore Harbor. You know, when I saw the trash every day when it rained, I'd hear the tourists say, "Oh, this harbor's disgusting." So every day on my way to work, I would think about what we could do to pick up the trash. Started Clearwater Mills when I came up with the invention of the trash wheel. We're on Professor Trash Wheel. It's the second trash wheel in Baltimore Harbor. The idea of powering things with water wheels is, particularly here in Baltimore, has been done for centuries. Today, we're using it to solve a more modern problem. You know, the first thing that happens is the trash gets funneled by the containment booms. We help get it up on the conveyor with these rakes, and the conveyor dumps it into the dumpster. The dumpster is on a separate floating barge. And when the barge is full, we can bring an empty one on another barge out here, pull this one out, slide the empty one in. That's why we can keep picking up trash. When it rains really hard, that's when we get the most trash. We've had one rainstorm in the Jones Falls brought us 15 dumpsters, 53 tons of trash, over 100,000 pounds of trash in one storm. We crank it up to full speed and fill dumpsters when we have a rain like that.
When we installed the trash wheel, it wasn't known as Mr. Trash Wheel, and it didn't have eyeballs, and it didn't have a social media account. It was just a really cool, totally unique, one-of-a-kind invention sitting at the end of the river. And it did such a great job collecting trash and was so compelling to folks that it received over 1.5 million views on the internet.
And I believe the water wheel has just accumulated its first tire.
And that really prompted our organization to say, how are we going to build on this? And a company called What Works came in and said, you guys need to just Photoshop some eyeballs on this device and give it a name and a Twitter account. And that's how Mr. Trash Wheel was born. Fast forward a couple years later, and there's actually a petition online for us to install giant eyeballs on the actual device. So that's what we did.
Originally, I had mixed feelings about it because I was afraid that the googly eyes and the persona would make people not take it as seriously as a piece of sort of public works infrastructure. But now that I've seen what it's achieved and the way it's inspired young people, I'm all for it. What I say to Adam is, you know, we'll make it the trash wheel eat. He can make it speak and see and everything else. That we'll just make it eat.
Ever since we installed the googly eyes on Mr. Trash Wheel, the awareness and the excitement around this whole idea of cleaning up the harbor has just exploded.
Social media really helps out, and it's really great that they have personalities and they're funny and people like to follow them, so it really helps our efforts as well.
You can have an organization come in, you know, every weekend and say, okay, we're going to clean up for you, we're going to do this project, and then they leave. It's better if you have the neighborhood involved and people involved because they take pride, they take ownership, they learn more about the solutions to help solve those problems.
We look forward to maybe even possibly a swimmable harbor,
Yeah.
in our near future. It could be another attraction that draws people to visit and to live. We do see efforts that could make that happen, and we want to do what we can to help. We love the trash wheel.
Yes. It kind of has gained a life of its own.
It's great when you have something that's fun, that's almost has a personality, like Mr. Trash Wheel. But that's just one small part of what happens. Street sweeping seems kind of boring. Literally every 3 weeks or so, we're collecting as much trash with our street sweeper fleet as Mr. Trash Wheel collects in a year. Waste does not fall from the sky. I think anytime you have something else joining the anti-litter crusade, it's a good thing.
New infrastructure in cities these days has to do multiple things. Mr. Trash Wheel is kind of showing people that, oh, there are new ideas out there and we can implement them.
Our infrastructure is, in many cases, more than 100 years old. So we have to deal with obsolescence. And as we do that, we have to think of are there new, better ways of doing what we've been doing? We have, in the last few years, talked about making the harbor swimmable and fishable. And I think people think of that as going back to when it was swimmable and fishable. But if you look up pictures of what was the harbor like 30 years ago, 50 years ago, it was industrial. It's very new that we've decided that this is where we're going to have people live and people work, to have people want to come down and spend a weekend having a great day on the harbor. There's really an interesting reversal, a change in the way we've thought about the Inner Harbor as a resource and as an attraction and as something that's worth preserving and restoring to something that it was centuries ago as opposed to just decades ago.
This is Mr. Trash Wheel's Lost Python Ale. It is a custom beer created by Peabody Heights Brewery here in Baltimore. It commemorates the time that Mr. Trash Wheel picked up a live ball python out of the harbor.